He knelt in a pool of blood, desperately trying to awaken a rapidly stiffening corpse, when he was suddenly awakened by the sound of footsteps. He picked up a pistol from the pool of blood, pointed it at the person walking towards him, and screamed, "I'll kill you." No matter how many times he presses the trigger, the bullet has no budget. The approaching character sneered, what a scene. The great detective Song Lang actually killed his boss and companions with his own hands. I can't wait to see the headline news in tomorrow's newspaper. Anger surged onto Go Lang's chest, ready to explode at any time. He threw down his gun and charged towards the criminal who had cornered him. Before Song Lang could reach the distance, the other party suddenly pulled out an iron pipe from behind them and hit Song Lang's head. Song Lang fell to the ground, fresh blood soaking through his temples. The mysterious person dropped the iron pipe onto the floor, with a crisp and piercing sound. "Listen up, from now on, Detective Song Lang will disappear forever. If I have so much smell of your trace after that, I will pursue you and once again strip you of everything you cherish." The unknown figure then laughed and disappeared into the darkness. Chapter 1. Mysterious Driver. You are listening at novelfull.audio. He knelt in a pool of blood, desperately trying to awaken a rapidly stiffening corpse, when he was suddenly awakened by the sound of footsteps. He picked up a pistol from the pool of blood, pointed it at the person walking towards him, and screamed, "I'll kill you." No matter how many times he pressed the trigger, the bullet did not shoot out. The person approaching mockingly said, what a great detective Song Lang. In fact, you killed your boss and companions with your own hands." Anger surged onto Song Lang's chest, ready to explode at any moment. He threw down his gun and charged towards the person who had pushed him into despair. Before Song Lang could get close to him, the other party suddenly pulled out an iron pipe from behind him and threw it at Song Lang's head. Song Lang fell to the ground, his temples soaked in bright red blood. The mysterious person dropped the iron pipe onto the floor, with a crisp and piercing sound. "Listen up, from now on, Detective Song Lang will disappear forever. If I have so much smell of your trail after that, I will pursue you and deprive you of everything again." The figure of the mysterious man disappeared into the darkness with laughter. Chen Shi woke up in shock. In the rearview mirror, he saw a face soaked in sweat, and he felt like a stranger in appearance. Even though he is willing to use his life to forget his past, that bloodstained and polluted night will repeatedly appear in his dreams, tormenting him. He took out a pack of cigarettes from his glove box, shook them, but found that the small bag was already empty. He angrily threw it back into his glove box. "Damn it, I'm sweating again." Although it is the beginning of autumn, autumn is truly heartless. When the seasons change, if you don't pay attention to the weather changes, it's easy to catch a cold. As an American driver, there is no freedom or luxury to spend a few days in bed. He glanced at the clock and found that it was already 2 o'clock in the morning. It was time to go home and take a hot shower, and then he fell asleep and had a peaceful sleep. Suddenly, a beeping sound came from Chen Shi's phone, and he meowed at the phone on the shelf. It was the company that notified him of a new task order. The passenger ordering the service is 1 kilometer away. He looked at the destination that the passenger wanted and noticed that it was on its way to his home. Why not make enough money to buy some skewers while returning home? He clicks to confirm the order through practice and then starts the car. A feminine figure appeared in front of the headlights, so Chen Shi futilely used one hand to pass through his messy hair. A pair of slender and beautiful snow-white legs gracefully walked towards the back seat and opened the door. The beautiful woman bent down and entered. Chen Shi's eyes looked at her through the rearview mirror and glanced down. "Well, she's at least a stunning beauty, and she's the kind of mature one. Where are we going, beautiful woman?" The beautiful woman complained bluntly. "The weather is really hot, oh. Go to the scenic hotel." After the car started, the beautiful woman took out a pack of cigarettes from her bag. Chen Shi extended 2 fingers to her and announced impolitely, "Come on, I forgot to buy a cigarette." The craving is really unbearable. The only answer he received was that the beautiful woman rolled her eyes and coughed before putting the cigarette back. You went to the hotel alone late at night. Did you know there was a murder case nearby? And the murderer is still at large. Cut, don't scare people. Besides, what does it have to do with me? I'm just going to see a friend. Ah, the classic answer. At night, it will. If you encounter a bad person, that's not good. Bad guy. The beautiful woman sneered. It doesn't like these words. Bad guy would be written on their faces. That may not be true. I'm not lying to you. If there really is a killer entering my car, I will be able to accurately reveal their true personalities. Oh. Why didn't you tell me what that murderer looked like? Oh, murderers. They usually have versatile eyes, quick-witted behavior, are particularly sensitive and irritable. Usually, they avoid discussing their own situation. The beautiful woman snorted. You sound like you have experience in this area before. It feels like they've been chatting for a while now. Chen Shi's skin has thickened and he asked, add a WeChat beauty, it's convenient to pick you up in the future. What are you saying? I just want to know you, why are you acting so cautious? I'm sorry, I don't feel like I'm there. I need to know people like you. Okay, when I didn't say anything, Chen Shi skillfully pressed the brake to let go of the nearby van. After a moment of silence, the beautiful woman took out a phone from her bag and glanced at Chen Shi in the rearview mirror. Then she typed a message on her phone. Dear, this driver has one. Don't speak. It's too annoying. The time has come to September 11th. On the morning of September 11th at 12 o'clock, a female corpse was found by the river 100 meters outside the Fulu Bridge in Xi'an. The deceased was about 25 years old, with a slender figure and a beautiful face. The deceased's clothes were damaged and torn, leaving rope marks on their neck. The preliminary report prepared by the coroner determined that the cause of death was strangulation from behind. The woman also had sexual activity before her death. Then, we found a shoulder bag carried by the deceased about 300 meters downstream. It included her ID card, phone number, and other personal belongings. After investigation, it can be confirmed that the cash carried by the deceased for 1,000 yuan, too, has been taken away. The phone cannot be turned on after soaking in the river. After repair, the deceased sent it to her boyfriend. The last two pieces of information were uncovered. The first piece of information was as follows: Dear, this driver one. Don't speak. It's too annoying. The second piece of information found said, just got off the car, I want to be there. Someone is tracking me. The police visited the boyfriend of the deceased, and he confirmed that he had received the above two text messages. At present, we are trying to contact the ride-hailing platform on the internet to investigate the driver's personal situation. After Lin Pu, the captain of the Criminal Investigation Brigade, read out the details of the case in a calm tone, those who silently listened to him began to be restless. Is it another murder case involving an internet car driver? Is the quality of internet car drivers so poor now? I think this dark platform that allows hiring such drivers should be banned. Don't blindly draw conclusions for now. At present, there is no evidence to suggest that the culprit was the driver. Based on the time of death, it can be inferred that the incident occurred around 3 a.m., and the traffic around the bridge was sparse, so the likelihood of the culprit being the driver is very high. Cupulin tapped a few times on the table, and his subordinates immediately fell silent. Lin Pu continued, the car on the internet, rape, murder, and a young woman. It's been less than a month since the last Wong car hailing murder case, and I didn't expect these words to appear again in a case file. Once the case is exposed to the public, it will have a huge social impact, so the higher authorities attach great importance to and pay special attention to this case. They have ordered us to resolve this case as soon as possible. I will postpone the pressure from senior management and the media. This case will be investigated normally. Therefore, All holidays for the next 2 days will be cancelled. If you usually sleep for 7 hours, then sleep for 5 hours now. Strive for a result in the next 48 hours. Do everyone have confidence that we can bring a result? Usually, these words will be very harsh and strict. However, when they walked from Lin Xiaopu, they brought a convincing and calm aura. Many female police officers who watch Qing Liang and collect Lin Xiaopu's speeches have stars in their eyes. As for the male officers, they could only look at their lovesick female colleagues and sigh. Comparing oneself to others can lead to zero self-confidence. We have confidence. The members of the unit answered harmoniously. Great, then I'll assign tasks. Xiao Qi, take people to re-examine the area of the crime scene. The officials quickly left the conference room one after another. Lin Pu was packing up his case when he suddenly noticed a gaze behind him. His hand stopped for a moment before continuing to organize the materials. He didn't turn his head and asked, "Are you still not leaving? Why do you always assign me to unimportant tasks, such as investigating the interpersonal relationships of the deceased?" the female police officer asked in a threatening tone. Is it unimportant or irrelevant? For me, nothing is unimportant or unimportant. Every task is a necessary component of the investigation. You just need to obey orders. Well, what you're saying sounds good. It's always the same. All the dangerous and difficult tasks have never been assigned to me. Will I always be the ignorant little girl in your eyes who will never grow up? Lin Xiaopu, I trained at the police academy for 4 years and became a successful police officer, instead of just coming out to experience life leisurely. Lin Pu finally turned around and encountered her eyes full of problems. His expression softened. Sister, Captain Lin. The female police officer suddenly raised her voice. Is it appropriate to address someone in such an intimate way at the station? She walked to the door and briefly stopped on the track. Brother, I will help you rediscover my strengths. Looking at her back as she left, Lin Pu's face showed a bitter smile. Chapter 2. Murder Cases. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Lin Dongxue went to the underground garage out of habit, and her car was repaired at the car repair shop. 2 weeks ago, she crashed a car while pursuing a suspect. She violated more than 10 traffic rules in one go, so all her points were deducted from her driver's license. She also received severe disciplinary action because she disobeyed orders like she did. Troubled by memories, she began to walk outside when suddenly a car honked at her. A police car slowed down and rolled up beside her. A smiling face appeared behind the window, which was slowly rolling down. Dongxue, I'll give you a ride. No need. Lin Dongxue bluntly refused. Did you fight with your brother again? Smart Su Xiaodong accurately guessed her situation based on her tone and expression. Why are you acting so unhappy? The captain of the criminal investigation department is your brother. Others can or even don't want to establish such a close relationship with the captain, no matter how much they crave. If I were you, even in my dreams, I would smile. Lin Dongxue suddenly stopped, raised her eyebrows, and shouted, in everyone's eyes, I'm just the sister of the captain. No one has ever thought that I'm just Lin Dongxue. If you want to be his sister like that, then go ahead. I know. I don't even want this position in a million years. In this way, she quickened her pace and left the garage. I just casually said it. Did the conversation make her very angry? Su Xiaodong scratched his head in confusion. After several intersections, Lin Dongxue calculated that she did not encounter Su Xiaodong's danger again because she avoided his usual route when leaving the sub-bureau. Lin Dongxue took out her phone and called for an online ride-hailing service. The driver seemed to accept the order within a few seconds, but after waiting for 5 minutes, the car icon on the map still didn't move. Lin Xiaodong dialed the driver's phone and said, "When will it arrive?" "I've been standing here for 5 minutes. The driver answered without hesitation, "Sorry, beautiful woman, I have some situation here. Would you mind walking to the intersection and waiting for me? Damn it, I'm sweating again. Passing through the alley in front of you, I can see you when I cross the road, it's too much trouble. Lin Dongxue hung up the phone, crossed the street, and walked into the alley. At first, she thought it was a traffic jam, but there were hardly any cars around. There is an uncle washing a car next to him, using a hose pulled from the kitchen of a nearby restaurant. Lin Dongxue walked over and stood with crossed arms next to the driver. The driver was completely unaware, and while washing the car, he complained, "What's wrong with this damn sparrow defecating? He even ran to my beloved car to defecate." Lin Dongxue coughed violently, and the driver turned around and smiled, "Oh, is that you? Come in." Lin Dongxue glared at him angrily and said, "That's why you asked me to come over. I waited on the roadside for a whole 5 minutes, but you were so leisurely washing the car here. Don't be so stingy. It's only 5 minutes." Lin Dongxue blinked her eyes, speechless. She felt that this kind of person couldn't understand how to cherish time. The driver turned around with a smooth smile and argued, "If you insist on saying that, then I must explain it to you clearly. From where you first stood to where we are now, it's just a straight line, 50 meters away. However, if I were to drive, I would have to detour around the block, which means I would need at least 10 minutes to reach you. From this perspective, I didn't waste 5 minutes of your time. I didn't waste your time, but I saved 5 minutes for you. As for washing the car, it's because of me. I'm a clean freak. There's bird droppings on the windshield, and because I feel it when I look at it, I feel like I'm a clean freak. Very uncomfortable, which could lead to accidents, as I would say, I can't focus on the feces in front of me. Can't you say that? It's better to wash the car to provide better service, or continue these dangers. Well, all these excuses. Lin Dongxue snorted, "Even if what you said is true, why didn't you proactively call me in advance and make me wait for a whole 5 minutes? That's my fault. I happened to be using my phone at the time. My mother had a cerebral thrombosis and had just undergone surgery to remove the blood clot. The phone I just answered was from the hospital." Lin Dongxue was speechless and said, "Okay, I understand. Don't play sympathy cards, just start the car." Sitting in the back seat, Lin Shui saw the name Chen Shi on the displayed license. Chen Shi adjusted the rearview mirror slightly, and a pair of cunning eyes fell on Lin Dongxue's chest area. He opened his mouth and asked, "Where are we going, beautiful woman? Are you mentally disabled? Didn't you check the address when you placed your order?" "I'm sorry, I used to drive a taxi, so my habit is to ask who got on the bus. It's just some small talk, but anyway, this is a useless joke. Who would want to chat with you? Don't think so." After a period of silent driving, Lin Dongxue noticed a pair of cheerful eyes focused on her, which made her very unhappy. She patted the driver's shoulder and said, "Be careful of the road, okay? Don't be so perverted. I'm not staring at you. I'm currently observing the road." Lin Dongxue laughed and said, "What are you observing?" "That's the fire inside your liver. Have you found yourself suffering from insomnia recently, with morning bitterness and a white tongue in your mouth?" Okay, let's not say anything." Chen Shi skillfully pressed the brake to let go of the van rushing out from the side. "I know some things here and there." Chen Shi smiled and took out a pack of cigarettes from his glove box. "On the morning of September 11th, it's none of your business. Let's drive." "You're a police officer, right?" Lin Dongxue was shocked. She examined her body from head to toe. "I'm wearing casual clothes, so may he have seen my gun?" "Impossible. The gun was always hidden behind her jacket, and the gun belt was also well hidden." The talkative driver chattered incessantly to himself without any prompts. Occupation leaves a mark on people. The way you view people is different from ordinary people. People working in law enforcement usually see your eyes. So, why do you guess I'm a law enforcement officer? Chen Shi smiled and said, the place where you got in the car is 2 streets away from the police station. Coincidentally, a few police cars drove out. Hey, could you reveal some information about which case you are currently investigating? Originally, Lin Dongxue didn't want to tell the truth. Nevertheless, she decided to take advantage of this opportunity to retaliate against this person, so she boasted, the murder of a ride-hailing driver on the internet. Chen Shi replied without surprise, oh, really? If you need me to cooperate in any way, please give me a buzz. Oh, yes. Will there be a reward if we provide information clues? Do you have any clues? At present, there is none, but if there is, this is a generous return, I can investigate it myself. Ha, you sound like you can really investigate a case. It's just solving a case, it only requires a bit of luck. Maybe I'll be very lucky today. His words made Lin Dongxue very unhappy. She wanted to argue, but the phone stopped when it rang. A WeChat notification pops up, informing her that Su Xiaodong has added her to a group chat. Whenever a new case occurs, he creates a group chat to exchange information and stay updated on the latest developments. Su Xiaodong excitedly informed everyone, I know who the ride-hailing driver on the internet was that day. Lin Dongxue showed a disdainful expression. How boastful. A long message appeared during the chat, Chen Shi, male, 36 years old, a citizen of Ukraine. A city that has been in operation for 15 years, his license plate number is. Lin Dongxue looked up and saw the silly smile on the license photo. Suddenly, sweat flowed down her back. She panicked and took out a gun, pointing it at Chen Shi's head. I command you to stop immediately. 1. Chang'an Edo is a car, Chang'an, produced by a Chinese automobile manufacturer. 2. A situation that is not life-threatening, when you have a lot of hot food, i.e. fried food, junk, spicy food, etc., lack of sleep, and or stress. In traditional Chinese medicine, food is divided into yin, cold, or yang, heat, and there are also different subcategories. 3. Eyes like this. Chapter 3. Suspects. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After a few seconds of silence, Chen Shi coldly glanced at the rearview mirror and asked, Did you remember something? I told you to stop. Did you hear me? Listen, do you think I can easily stop in the middle of the road? Before I do anything, I must pass through the upcoming intersection. Stop. Stop immediately. Lin Dongxue hates the other party's cynical attitude very much. He is obviously a murder suspect, but he seems so calm about the current situation. In response to his words, she kicked the driver. Apart from nervousness and fear, she also felt a bit excited. This situation is when God places the suspect in front of her and waits for her to perform meritorious deeds. She finally had some hope, as her skills and strengths would be recognized by others. Looking back at her from the rearview mirror, her sharp eyes observed the subtle changes on her face. Chen Shi casually reasoned, when you looked at your phone just now, your attitude underwent a huge change. It seems that you must have made a mistake, thinking that I am a murder suspect. Made a mistake. That's not, you can decide. Now, come back to the station with me. I will point out 3 shortcomings for you. What? Lin Shui suspected her ears. Is this guy mentally disabled? Damn it, I'm sweating again. Before Lin Dongxue could react, Chen Shi suddenly slammed on the brake. The sudden force caused Lin Dongxue to hit the driver's back seat, causing the gun to slip away from her hand. She lifted her head and saw the black muzzle pointing straight at her face. Behind the weapon was Chen Shi's mocking gaze. Did you see that? It's easy to deal with you. Even if I kill you now, your colleagues won't know. You lack experience, young man. What are you planning to do? Lin Dongxue was very scared, and her words were stuck in her throat. She tried to grab her phone in panic, but now it's definitely not possible. Chen Shi turned the gun around and returned it to her. I just pointed out some shortcomings in your actions, he said. That's the red Chananito, stupid bitch, do you want to die? The dissatisfied driver of a red sedan behind them cursed angrily, leaning against the steering wheel and making a piercing and sharp noise from the horn. Chen Shi extended his hand out of the window, gave the driver a middle finger, and then he started the car again. Lin Dongxue rubbed her sore head, completely dumbfounded. As a suspect, this person is exceptionally calm and not an ordinary person. Well, the road to the return station is quite congested and the traffic is quite congested. Can I take a detour a bit? Chen Shi asked. Lin Dongxue adjusted her mindset and said, don't play tricks. Chen Shi smiled and said, where's the order? I'll confirm the additional cost for the new route first. Whatever. Lin Dongxue found her phone under her seat and saw Su Xiaodong sending another message. Damn it, we're really lucky, but when I found out, it actually scared me a bit. This guy is articulate. He used to be a member of a gang and was accused of beating, extorting, and kidnapping. In one battle, the other party even became vegetative because of him. He was sentenced to serious injury and had to serve 10 years in prison. The background check of employees in the United States for ride-hailing services is too lax, and even people like him may become drivers. When it comes to these, it's terrifying to think of highly dangerous individuals driving at night and lonely female passengers. So the thing is, this guy is an experienced old fox. No wonder he is too calm. Lin Shui gave herself a very reasonable and logical answer. She quickly typed a message and sent it out. I am currently in the suspect's car. I have ordered him to drive back to the station. If the station personnel can respond and take over, it will be very convenient. The group chat immediately exploded. No way. Miss Lin won the highest prize. Will such a thing happen? It's really good luck to bump into a suspect like this. And report your location, don't reveal your identity, and don't do anything that will aggravate the suspect. Try to maintain his good side, but now, buy time. Lin Dongxue sent a message to her younger brother Lin Puxi. Lin Shui announced her current position. After turning the corner, the car suddenly came to a stop. Chen Shi opened the door and rushed out like a mad dog. Lin Dongxue is very scared. I should have anticipated that he never wanted an honest person. She can only blame herself for lowering her vigilance. Stop, if you don't stop, I'll shoot. Lin Dongxue shouted as she chased him. Chen Shi ran at an incredible speed, and Lin Dongxue, wearing leather sandals, could not surpass her opponent. This street is very busy, and people are constantly rushing. Shooting at will in this situation can cause chaos, not to mention that it will definitely make headlines in the United States tomorrow. Lin Dongxue could only run a few steps before she broke the heel of her shoe. She kicked off her shoes in anger. Even though the ground hurt her soles, she gritted her teeth and continued to chase. Suddenly, Lin Dongxue saw a young man running rapidly in front of Chen Shi. When the distance between the two narrowed to less than 2 meters, Chen Shi pounced and pushed the person to the ground. Chen Shi caught a pickpocket who was grabbing a woman's handbag. Chen Shi took out a cable tie from his pocket and tied the young man's hands behind his back. The people around slowly gathered around the two, whispering and discussing. Okay, pretend I didn't say anything. Chen Shi quickly returned to the car. He gave me a mocking glance and said, oh my, chief officer, you still want to catch me? Lin Dongxue was greatly surprised. He suddenly rushed out of the car just to stop a thief. Lin Dongxue was about to say something when she suddenly saw a middle-aged woman in her 40s dressed very fashionably standing outside the car window. The lady took out a stack of banknotes and handed them to Chen Shi. Thank you, really thank you. Chen Shi roughly took 3 or 4 sheets of paper from the stack and said, these are enough. 10,000 is too much, I can't accept it. Lin Dongxue and the lady walked away and raised their voice, saying, if you want to do something good, then do it. Why do you want to charge her? Here, I don't think you are noble and selfless. Being noble and selfless is not the same thing. I think, if there is, it's really strange infinite altruistic behavior. In addition, receiving a small reward not only makes me happy, but also ensures that my righteous heart is motivated. I don't feel they owe me anything. Lin Dongxue was speechless and changed the topic. You're just a driver, but are you taking such a risk alone? Aren't you afraid they'll come back and retaliate against you? The fear of these local hooligans is mainly due to ordinary people's excessive thinking. After all, mice are afraid of humans from the beginning. Chen Shi didn't respond to her words and looked down at her barefoot. What's wrong with your shoes? Lin Shui went back to find her shoes, but the sandals had already been taken away by a homeless recycler. Her soles are painful due to severe wear and tear. But she showed great strength, and Chen Shi knew that it was time to be attentive. Chen Shi took Lin Dongxue by the hand and led her to a nearby shoe store. Lin Dongxue shook his hand away and said, "What are you doing? Hold me," as if we're very familiar with each other. Chen Shi ignored her and lightly pushed her shoulder, saying, "Buy it quickly, I have something else to do." Lin Dongxue was taken to a strange shop. He randomly picked a decent pair of sports shoes. When it was time to make the payment, she announced, "Let me do it myself." However, when she reached into her pocket, she realized she had left her phone in the car. "Let me lend you money," Chen Shi smiled and threw the reward he had received earlier on the table. Chapter 4. Motivation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When they returned to the car, Chen Shi stretched lazily and then pulled out a cigarette, asking, "Miss Officer, can you give me one?" "Whatever you want." Lin Shui said stiffly, "Oh, yes, I'll give it back to you now." Chen Shi took out his phone and handed it to her. Above is the QR code. Lin, when she noticed that the QR code was about to add a new friend, she was about to lightly scan it to accept the remittance request. She frowned and said, "What, does this QR code exist? Who would want to add someone like you as a friend on WeChat?" Chen Shi smiled and asked, "It's just adding me as a friend on WeChat. What's the problem? Who would want to add you on WeChat? You're a murder suspect, so don't play this game with me." After pausing for a while, Lin Shui asked, "What's your motive?" "What do you mean, what is my motivation?" I have no motivation. You're very clear about what you've done. Also, I've been wanting me to add you from the beginning. First, you pretend not to care about me being a police officer. Then, you try to act like a good person in front of me and use a pair of free shoes to bait me. Don, I don't think these will win my support. My colleagues have thoroughly investigated your background. Chen Shi smiled bitterly and said, "I really don't know that I have already completed it. Why did Tang inspire me? What were you doing on the evening of September 10th? Damn it, I'm sweating again." Lin Dongxue sneered, "Tang, I don't think I believe you." "I easily believe you. What else did you do? Do you think the life of a driver like me is both rich and exciting? How about that? Why don't you remind me and help me remember me? Should I do it? Enough performance. We just want to show innocence. Don't fool me." Chen Shi pressed his cigarette onto the ashtray and pointed at his face, "Look at this handsome face. Is this the face of the suspect? That's the red Chang'an Edo." That may not necessarily be true. It may not be clearly written on a face, but having a word requires sharp eyes to reveal whether a person has a bad personality. For example, I can tell at a glance that the thief who caught the lady was very vigilant and panicked, unlike ordinary citizens. The phone rang, and Lin Shui saw her brother sending a few messages when they left the car, asking her why not yet. Lin Shui instructed Chen Shi, "The car has already started." She pushed open the door and sat in the passenger seat, grabbing Chen Shi's right hand. His hands are white and thin, not suitable for long-term blue-collar work. Chen Shi smiled and asked, is what wrong? Do you know how to read the palm? When a pair of handcuffs were placed on his right wrist, his answer was a click sound. Lin, when Chen Shi sharply said that Dong Xue was about to put the other end on her wrist, fool, how could I drive like this? Put the left side of the handcuffs on the steering wheel. Lin Dongxue squinted her eyes and looked at him. Chen Shi explained, I have to shift gears with my right hand, and I have to hold the steering wheel with my left hand. Have you ever driven a car before? Shut up. I want you to stop talking nonsense. Lin Shui untied his handcuffs and reached out to handcuff his left hand onto the steering wheel. Chen Shi looked at her behavior with serious flaws and began to think. Even if I knock her down now and take her key, it will proceed smoothly. At the same time, something came to mind in his mind. Hey, this girl has an exceptional figure. After starting the car again, Chen Shi smiled faintly and asked, what's your name? I won't chat with murder suspects. Chen Shi shook his head and said, you keep saying I'm a murder suspect. It sounds too scary. If anything happens, I'm not the perpetrator. Lin Dongshue's just gaze shook our eyes. I should have expected him not to be an honest person. That's impossible. I said, by chance. Why can't we bet on Tang? What are we gambling on? That's the fire inside your liver. Okay, pretend I didn't say anything. Chen Shi skillfully withdrew the advancing troops. Miss, look at this. I'm just a nobody. I don't even know what to do. Keep going. I was invited to participate in tea drinking with you. For you, this may be a small matter, but it's a big matter for me. What would my colleagues and family think? And I lost tens of thousands of dollars in today's order value. Do you want to reimburse me? On the morning of September 11th, too, you are a truly fluent speaker, aren't you? Lin Dongxue was very disgusted. She hates this kind of man the most. She despises Chen Shi more than Su Xiaodong, who don't let her go. Chen Shi had no self-awareness at all and kept pushing her lightly with his elbow. What's going on? You don't know, don't lose anything. Okay, Lin Dongxue surrendered with an angry attitude, because you can never prove your innocence no matter what. There is nothing impossible in this world. Chen Shi looked at her and smiled slightly. Chen Shi drove seriously for a while until he reached the intersection. At the red light, he lowered his head and started playing with his phone. Suddenly, Lin Shui received a notification on the phone. On WeChat, it indicates that someone called Grey Wolf and added her as a friend's icon with Wu Xianzu. So your phone number turned out to be your WeChat account. Chen Shi smiled. Think about it, don't be afraid of retaliation, because you need to enter the palace. Lin Dongxue has never seen such a thick person before. She clicked the accept button to add Chen Shi as a friend, while ensuring that the other party could not see her social circle on the application. When the couple arrived in the jurisdiction, Lin Shui saw Chiu Pulin and the others standing outside, just like they were welcoming celebrities on the red carpet. The police officers walked towards them one after another, praising Lin Dongshue's good luck and saying that she was lucky enough to escort the murder suspect back almost as soon as she left. Lin Qiupu declared in a professional tone, Dongxue, if this case is resolved, we will remember your meritorious performance in this case. At this moment, the door opened and Chen Shi smiled and waved to everyone. Hello everyone, my name is Chen Shi. It's almost noon. Do you have lunch? Lin Dongxue felt very uncomfortable being taken away. Chiu Pulin shouted to two police officers, Xiao Hai, Xiao Wang, take him to the interrogation room. 2 hours later, the door of the interrogation room suddenly slammed open. Two police officers rushed out and said, I can't bear it anymore. This guy's argument is very reasonable, logical, and meticulous. We can have no idea about him. Captain, you and I must personally interrogate him. Lin Qiupu put down his teacup and said, I will talk to him. Lin Shui grabbed her jacket and said, I'll go too. It would be a pity not to see my brother, with a puzzled expression in my own eyes. When the two entered the interrogation room, Chen Shi complained, "This chair is too uncomfortable. My hemorrhoids are going to break out again. Is it possible to get a cushion?" When you choose to break the law, you are destined to receive this kind of treatment. If you want to feel comfortable, then you should live an honest life at home, Lin Qiupu said. Chen Shi reminded, "I will remind you again that I am not a criminal. Currently, I am just a suspect. I believe that treating me with an attitude towards a criminal is that you misjudge the enemy, just like the assumption that currently is only guilty, there. Before you were proven guilty, I confused innocence until it was proven innocent. Well put, this is a negligence of your current responsibility. When it is not so friendly, from your perspective, this is a huge problem." Lin Qiupu angrily threw his hand onto the table and said, "Don't play these language games with me. I won't beat around the bush with you. On the evening of September 10th, what are you doing? Be honest and detailed." "So, I'll answer you directly." Chen Shi began to recall with his fingers, from 6.00 to 7.30, I had a few driving companions at the food stall. From 7.30 to 2.00 in the morning, I was patrolling, receiving orders, and providing driver services for passengers. You can investigate my records. At 2.30 in the morning, I went home to take a shower and sleep. The record administrator whispered, "He said the same thing before." Chapter 5. Humiliation. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Cupulin sneered at Chen Shi, who responded with a smile. Cupulin instructed Chen Shi to read and memorize the 8 words located behind the officer. Resistance will be dealt with harshly, honesty will be rewarded generously. Is my pronunciation correct? You are neither the first nor the last dishonest criminal sitting in that seat. Do you really think? Pay attention to your wording, great Captain Lin. I am just a suspect, not a criminal. According to the law, I am still an upright citizen. Detaining me without providing any form of evidence and interrogating me is illegal in itself. Chen Shi did not even hesitate an inch. There is no evidence. Lin Qiupu was furious. If possible, I don't remember myself anymore, then I'll help you remember. On the evening of September 11th at 2 a.m., a female passenger named Meng Xinggu was in your car. She sent her boyfriend a text message during the ride to prove that you had verbally harassed her. The next day, her body was found near the river. There were obvious signs of rape. Do you dare to say that you are completely innocent? 3 pairs of eyes stared at Chen Shi. Before immediately returning to normal, a hint of surprise appeared on his face. On the morning of the 11th, there was indeed a beautiful female passenger in my car. However, I delivered her to her requested destination, the Fengxilan Hotel. My driving record can serve as proof, Chen Shi said calmly. In this situation, if he doesn't tell the truth, he will be more suspected. Where is the starting point of travel? What were you doing on the evening of September 10th? Damn it, I'm sweating again. I fell asleep. As far as I know, on the way from Shihuzi Road to Fengxilan Hotel, you must pass by the crime scene. Chen Shi rolled his eyes, shook his head, and smiled. Go check your driving records. Driving records can be forged. That's the red Chang'an Edo, pay attention to your attitude. Lin Qiupu coldly commanded. The phone rang, and Lin Shui saw her brother sending a few messages when they left the car, asking her why not yet. Lin Qiupu had an expression on his face, as if he was looking at trash. He picked up the phone next to him, exchanged a few words, and then asked, "Is it true that you verbally harassed the female passenger?" Chen Shi's answer seems to be reciting a word from a book. Regarding verbal harassment, it clearly describes China's sexual harassment laws. The first example is as follows. Using vulgarity to tease the opposite sex. The next statement is, describe your personal sexual experience to the other person and tell any obscene or other perverted jokes. The last example includes reading any unwanted pornography from the other person. In this sense, I did not verbally harass her. On the contrary, I only had a regular conversation with her. Don't avoid my question, Tang. What I'm asking is whether you verbally harassed the passengers. You have not yet determined the concept of harassment. In your opinion, what constitutes harassment? Ordinary casual chat. Asking someone for their contact information. Exploring their family, the situation in the United States. Is any part of what I just said legally considered sexual harassment for you? Lin Dongxue is speechless. In order to change this situation, she changed the perspective of the interrogation. Based on the distance to the jurisdiction, it seems that you are very enthusiastic about female passengers. I think it is inappropriate to show such excessive enthusiasm towards single female passengers at 2 a.m. That's just your opinion. Opposing your opinion, first of all, I'm just a very talkative person. Secondly, I like the opposite sex, and I'm a single male. I saw a young and beautiful female passenger getting on the bus. Is there anything wrong with the conversation? Just then, in the car, did our conversation in any way infringe on you? What did this guy say to you in the car? Akira Lin asked Dong Zolin. Upon hearing this, Dong Xuelin spun her hair on her fingers and slowly answered, "This is just an ordinary conversation." Chen Shi saw them give him an inch, so he walked a mile. As a single man, I believe it is completely normal to have conversations with the opposite sex in any situation and at any time, which is reasonable, logical, and legal. When I drive to make a living, I stay in the car for 24 hours every day. If I don't open my mouth to talk to passengers, I'll die alone from bad breath. Lin Qiupu patted his hand on the table and said, "Don't argue over small details, face the main points. The fact is that the victim was in your car, you harassed her, and then she was raped and killed on the way to her destination." Chen Shi scratched his neck. "When you say that, your point of view sounds very reasonable. Hey, so-and-so, give me a cigarette." After Chen Shi finished speaking, he summoned a police officer with his index finger, indicating that he wanted to smoke. The three police officers looked at each other. "Smoking here means you will be honest. I don't believe this guy confessed so quickly after arguing for so long." Lin Pu gave him a Hongtashan brand cigarette. When he was about to light it for him, Chen Shi interrupted him and said, "Please. You have two different brands of cigarettes on you. One is for the criminal to smoke, and the other is for yourself. Who are you trying to deceive? Take out that pack of Zhonghua, buddy. You. Do you think my nose is just for display? You have a Chinese flavor on you. That's the fire inside your liver." Okay, pretend I didn't say anything." Chen Shi skillfully withdrew the advancing troops. Chen Shi looked up at the ceiling and excitedly recalled, 30 years ago. On the morning of September 11th, Lin Qiupu stood up and slammed his hand onto the table, causing me to even shake the mountain range. Justice Pack really feels proud. 2. Bold insult to law enforcement officers. You are pursuing death. Chen Shi extinguished his cigarette and said, "However, I only talked about two different events. When did I mention reincarnation? What insult did I say?" Lin Dongxue tried not to laugh. Lin Qiupu was very angry, just staring at Chen Shi without saying a word, like a person pausing for a moment, a bit confused, unsure whether he should write the last communication in the interrogation report. Chen Shi rationalized, "What you just mentioned are all facts that I believe are correct. However, appearing in the wrong place at the wrong time does not mean there is a causal relationship between the two. Additionally, this does not mean that these things are related, just because you put them in one sentence. This is the basic logic. Unless there is any specific and indisputable evidence, these are isolated events." Very good. Very good. Lin Qiupu couldn't bear the burden, I don't know what to say now. Lin Dongxue believes that this guy is different from other criminals, they talk nonsense on every issue. In fact, he was just reasoning and did not avoid any questions. Moreover, he does make sense. His ideas are very detailed and flawless. This person doesn't seem ordinary. Perhaps the fact is that he is not, after all, the culprit. Think about it, don't be afraid of retaliation, because you need to enter the palace. Someone knocked on the door, and a police officer gave Lin Qiupu and Chen Shi the driving record of the investigation results. Lin Pu glanced and exchanged a few words with the officer, then nodded to signal that the officer could leave. Cupulin flipped through a few pages of the document in his hand and said, "Oh, your so-called evidence seems to be very unfavorable to you." "Oh, stop talking nonsense," Chen Shi said impatiently. "You and I even tried to make me nervous with empty threats. I can see you using all the cards in your sleeves. I only took one order all day, how could I not know where I was going?" Lin Qiupu, his plan has been noticed, and there is an awkward expression on his face. "Who are you calling an unskilled donkey?" Lin Dongxue felt very uncomfortable being taken away. Lin Qiupu was so angry and humiliated that his whole face and ears turned red. This is the first time he has been humiliated by a suspect like this. "It seems that I must demonstrate my true skills." Cupulin picked up the phone and deliberately raised his voice. "Xiao Wang, turn off the surveillance system." 1. Chapter 6. Turning Point. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Cupulin sneered at Chen Shi, who responded with a smile. Cupulin instructed Chen Shi to read and memorize the 8 words located behind the officer. Resistance will be dealt with harshly, and honesty will be rewarded generously. Since you have found so much humor in this situation, then try to laugh as much as possible. I'm afraid you won, and I can't laugh quickly. Lin Pu picked up a stack of printed paper and walked up to Chen Shi, looking at what was written on the document and exclaiming, "Your resume must be dense and exciting." Chen Shi glanced at him and challenged, "What am I? I've done it before." "How about it?" "That's why you doubt my words." A former convict harassed a beautiful female passenger at 2 a.m. Then, the next day, she was raped and killed. What would you think if you were in my position? I strongly disagree with your point of view. The purpose of setting up prisons by the government is to reform and transform people like me, isn't it? After taking a detour, isn't it a positive example worth encouraging if a person can legally support themselves after receiving the country? So, why would it become a reason for suspicion? If it were, logically speaking, a former criminal like me must return to our past, cunning ways, right? On the morning of the 11th, Chen Shi frowned impatiently. I have said it many times, but you would rather die than believe me. I understand your thoughts. The judicial system in our country stipulates that criminals can still be represented by defense lawyers. However, I believe that you have also brought this policy into the interrogation room, which will only lead to a large number of falsely implicated citizens and erroneous cases. Even if I walk into the police station with my own free will and admit to murdering someone, the police still need to find 1,000 pieces of evidence to convict. However, from what I see now, you don't even have a single piece of evidence in your hands. However, you stand here, your lips red and teeth white, threatening innocent citizens to confess. How can you? What is your criminal justice system doing in the face of this country? How can you tolerate seeing yourself wearing that uniform? What about civilians? How can you look at them? What were you doing on the evening of September 10th? Damn it, I'm sweating again. Looking towards Lin Qiupu, who was on the verge of collapse, Chen Shi kept saying, not noticing the constantly changing atmosphere in the room. If I plead guilty today, not only will I suffer personally, but my family will also suffer. In addition, the deceased will not receive retribution or peace in death. Finally, the real culprit is still at large. He may continue to commit crimes in the future. Do you know how many people you will harm at the same time? Captain Lin, a drop of ink in this case file is 1,000 drops of blood among the people. You must be careful, and then be careful. I saw you in until you shed tears and you're looking at your coffin. Cupulin angrily raised his hand. Lin Dongxue and the scribe were both paralyzed with fear. At this moment, Chen Shi suddenly hit his head against the stainless steel, leaving a red mark on his head. He lifted his head and smiled cunningly. What are you doing? Lin Qiupu was stunned. That's the red Chang'an ego, shut up. Stop shouting. The phone rang, and Lin Shui saw her brother sending a few messages when they left the car, asking her why not yet. Absurdity. Lin Dongxue could stop standing and watch and stand up. We have 2 witnesses present, but you still want to frame the captain. Are your 2 testimonies sufficient? One is a subordinate, and the other is the defendant's sister. Chinese law places more emphasis on material evidence than witness testimony. In addition, any relatives of the defendant ignore the precedent of their testimony. If we really have to go to court, do you really think you can testify against me? Lin Dongxue and Fenren looked at each other. This guy is too powerful. He can turn the situation around like that. Lin Qiupu shouted, what do you think this place is? The police station is a place to talk about legality and reasoning. Forced detention and trial without evidence, violation of interrogation regulations by turning off the monitor, and the wound appeared on the suspect inexplicably. Only these 3 points, I don't know, even need to find a very long time, best lawyer. I just need to find anyone new to the judicial field, and you will, even if you have 100 mouths, you can't explain what happened here. Not only that, but you're also ignorant. As a law enforcer, usually there is one thing, ignored. I now remind you that the law doesn't just restrict you to sit the person in this chair, it also shackles you. After a moment of silence, Lin Qiupu's sweat flowed down his spine and he grabbed the back of his shirt collar with his fingers, showing a helpless expression. Lin Shui interrupted the 2 and said, Brother, I forgot to say something. What are you saying? Lin Qiupu looked at her incredulously, then at Chen Shi who was smiling. When he was arrested, he handed you the gun. Yes. Lin Shui shyly admitted, so I think he may not be the murderer after all. Chen Shi wore a satisfied smile. It's difficult to change one's mindset. Just like these things combined to make him doubt, he did a few things to slowly change Lin Dongxue's view of him. Common sense shows that men are often more stubborn than women. Cupulin took a deep breath, walked to the table, picked up the phone, and shouted, let go of him. When Chen Shi left the police station, the task force was in chaos. After facing Captain Lin, this is the first time the suspect has been released. In order to save face, Qiu Pulin said to himself, the cunning fox can not defeat the hunter. I will come back. I don't believe what they could do. Chen Shi came back about 5 seconds later, shocking the entire station. Lin Qiupu was shocked and said, what do you want? That's the fire inside your liver. Okay, pretend I didn't say anything. Chen Shi skillfully withdrew the advancing troops. Chen Shi looked up at the ceiling and excitedly recalled, 30 years ago. 3. What may have we done to your car on the morning of September 11th? Lin Shui thought this guy was very rude, but he still walked over. Chen Shi mysteriously lowered his voice and said, I will help you solve the case. What are you saying? Lin Dongxue suspected her ears. I told you I would help you solve the case. Do you want me? Once you pass through this village, the shops will no longer exist. Please. You can solve a problem by not eloquently stating your argument. People who have not received professional training. Listen to me. My intuition tells me that there is a turning point in this case. It's likely a murder case that has been planned for a long time. Lin Dongxue believes that. Think about it, don't be afraid of retaliation, because you need to enter the palace. Chen Shi threw away his cigarette butt and opened the car door. Before leaving, he tilted his head towards Lin Dongxue and said, see you tonight. Cupulin flipped through a few pages of the document in his hand and said, oh, your so-called evidence seems to be very unfavorable to you. 1. Idioms refer to things that people say or do, despite having normal human characteristics, red lips and white teeth, but have no meaning. It can also refer to people saying irresponsible things. 2. It will say, fry and boil, if I translate it directly. This means chaos and chaos erupt. 3. This is a Chinese proverb, which means judging a noble person with an unfair person. We have lost our rationality. It reminds people not to draw negative conclusions hastily, as an initially noble behavior may be distorted by negative tendencies of suspicion, which may damage the reputation established by the aforementioned noble people. 4. An idiom that refers to opportunities being a limited time offer, they will only be offered once. Chapter 7. Photos. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Lin Dongshue's face lost its color in shock. Isn't it the same person? Impossible. Her phone number shows her in your car. You want to treat me like a fool. Chen Shi shook his head helplessly and said, Miss Lin, if you still think that I'm the culprit, then we can. I can't continue discussing this. How do you know that this phone call belongs to the deceased? Are you saying that the other person in your car is the killer, even though it's a woman? I'm really just saying that rape is fake. Is the killer a woman? Do you remember what she looks like? Chen Shi gestured for Dong Xuelin to sit down and said, don't rush to draw conclusions based solely on assumptions. The woman sitting in my car may not be the culprit. Let's analyze. Chen Shi flipped through the photos on his phone and discovered a trivial detail. The deceased's right palm has a circular impression with some patterns on it, but it is very blurry in the photo. Chen Shi asked, was the item held by the deceased found at the crime scene? No. We looked carefully, but we can't find it anywhere. If only we could go and see this area. At present, someone on site is reviewing this case. I don't have the ability to take you there right now. I'm just pointing out that would be great. By the way, did you notice that the scene is a rocky beach that has fallen into the water? The possibility of friction is very high. The deceased's clothes are thin and torn in many places. If the deceased was really raped, then there should also be significant bruises on their body. However, none. Unless. Unless for what? Chen Shi smiled and said, unless the killer hangs her, rapes her, and kills her. Bastard. Lin Dongxue poured her cup of tea onto him. Hey, why are you doing this? Chen Shi complained and wiped it with a tissue. Chen Shi continued to look at the photo, and Dong Xuelin asked, what else did you find? At present, unless I can see the body with my own eyes, I can only recognize so many. I will spit out your, and finally found it. Do you think I like you? Chen Shi returned the report and phone number to Lin Shui. Chen Shi analyzed everything and established a perfect criminal hypothesis, collecting all the details. Lin Dongxue couldn't help but ask, who the hell are you? A guy who really likes his Hong Kong and Taiwan crime shows. Are you happy with this answer? Chen Shi lightly tapped, stop talking nonsense. I won, I don't believe it. Lin Dongxue stared straight into his eyes. Chen Shi lit a cigarette. So, are you willing to cooperate with me? You must answer my question first. I don't want to work with people with unknown backgrounds. Let me just say, I can not tell you. Pretend that I am a commoner master, okay? When we become more familiar, I will tell you who I am. Chen Shi raised his eyebrows abnormally. Who will we become intimate with you? Don't use me, Tang. Lin Shui raised a hand as if she was going to hit him. Aya. 2. Chen Shi pretended to beg for mercy until Deng Zulan let go. Then he suggested, let's establish some basic rules for cooperation. Let me hear you. First of all, Tang, I always ask me about my identity because I must keep some privacy. Next, this matter will be kept confidential for the time being. I will secretly help you investigate, and if that's the case, if it's successful, then all the credit will be yours. Of course, if you want to reward me in part, it's up to you to decide. Finally, I need you to fully trust me. I don't believe such a good thing could happen. A civilian expert proposed to provide assistance in this case, rather than going all out. Suspicious, she asked, "Why are you doing this?" "Because I like it." Lin Dongshue's face turned red. "What are you talking about?" "I say I enjoy solving cases. Additionally, I can see your brother moving in the wrong direction. Don't sit still. I am a fair person and I must deal with things that I know are wrong." "And are you so noble?" Lin Dongxue showed a blank face and didn't believe him at all. "I've told you before. Being noble and selfless are two different things. After everything is said and done, I will receive my reward. You have to take me out to eat." Lin Dongxue bit her lips. This guy is unpredictable, she can't see him at all. Perhaps she should believe him once. It seems that he does have the ability to solve cases. After all, she hopes to recognize her strengths more than anyone else. She wants others to see her in a new light and take a dual action. "Deal." Chen Shi extended a hand and Lin Dongxue asked ominously, "What are you doing?" "A symbolic representative of our cooperation." "Do you need this?" "Of course, that's what's needed there." Dong Zulin extended his arm and shook hands with him. Chen Shi's hands are delicate and warm, completely different from the driver's usual palms. When the two of them walked into the Fengxilan Hotel, Chen Shi casually said to the front desk, "I just mentioned that I forgot my ID card, but no one believed me. Now that I have brought a real police officer, believe me now." Chen Shi glanced at Lin Dongxue, who took out his ID card. "We are currently investigating a case and hope that your hotel can cooperate with us," he said. The front desk staff asked Chen Shi suspiciously, "What do you need to investigate?" "We would like to see the checked IN records of 10 people from the 1st to the 11th in September, designated Chen Shi. The staff member was loading information on the computer, and Chen Shi glanced at the list and asked Lin Dongxue, "What is Gu Mengxing's name, boyfriend?" "Chen Jun." Obviously, he didn't check in here that day. "Have you ever visited this person?" "Ah. You focused all your attention on me, haven't you?" Chen Shi asked the staff, "Do you have a parking lot here?" "Yes. It's right next to us." Chen Shi looked back at the gatekeeper and found that the door was already full. He asked, "Is the parking lot under surveillance?" "Yes." The two of them walked into the surveillance room and took out the footage of the day. Chen Shi set it to be 8 times faster than normal and stared at the screen without blinking. When the screen displayed at 2 o'clock in the upper right corner of the screen, he suddenly pressed pause and pointed to the right side of the screen where a glare appeared, saying, "This is my car." "Are you sure?" Lin Dongxue couldn't believe it. "It's my beloved car." "Of course I do. Don't misunderstand. The passenger asked me to park here that day." They continued to play surveillance footage. In the video, after Chen Shi, "Our car has already driven away." A woman wearing an A-line skirt walked to the parking lot. As her pace quickened, it was getting dark and her face was too clear to see. "I didn't drive, I even got into the parking lot." Chen Shi murmured to himself. The two continued to watch the surveillance footage to see when the woman left. However, they only saw a few cars leave. Lin Shui is half looking and half picking up the license plates of those cars. "There's no need to take them off. She's not in those cars," Chen Shi declared. "How did you know?" Chen Shi rewinds the camera and plays a video frame at a time until he reaches the visible black image of a household car. He stopped on a certain frame and pointed to the underside of the car, where a pair of feet were wearing high heels. "She played the role of the magician disappearing from us under the cover of a car." Chen Shi smiled. It seems that when she came, she found the surveillance camera with an intention to escape, and there was no, "I don't want to be photographed again." Sure enough, it's very suspicious. Lin Shui finally believed him this time, and the culprit was another person. Let me test it. How do you plan to investigate from now on? 1. There are one or two common people. Although incomparable to professionals, they possess more skills than ordinary people. 2. Equivalent to "oh/ouch" in this situation. Chapter 8. Lens. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Lin Dongxue thought for a while before she replied, "Retrieve the survey footprint as we left to see if she was seen in any of them." Chen Shi pointed out, "The answer is satisfactory, but at the location of the incident, near a bridge of Fu, there was no surveillance camera, so I didn't think it would be very effective. Additionally, it was very dark at the time. The quality of non-police surveillance footage is worrying. Therefore, even if we can retrieve the footage, we may not be able to see anything clearly." Lin Dongxue required, "Can you recall her appearance at all?" Without directly answering the question, Chen Shi smiled and asked, "How many days have passed since the incident occurred?" 4 days. How many people do you think drivers like me will encounter in 4 days? Have you heard of memory pollution? I'm worried that even if I try to recall it, it will only mislead us. Chen Shi broke his finger and said, "Let's go." "Where are we going?" "Go see Chen in June." Lin Shui called her colleagues and found out that Chen works in a foreign-funded company. He and several of his colleagues are currently renting a 3-bedroom apartment. When they arrived at Chen Jun's residence in the United States, a tidy young man opened the door and revealed his red eyes. He asked, "Who are you looking for?" Lin Dongxue flashed her badge and asked, "Are you Chen Jun? I want to discuss a few things with you. Please come in." A house with several men living inside is naturally quite messy. The person they assumed was Chen Jun, and they brought the two of them into his bedroom, which was very clean. Chen Shi asked several questions in an experienced manner, and Chen Jun answered them one by one. He claimed to have been dating Gu Mingxing for 3 years. At first, the two met in a social network game. When they live in the same city, they proposed to meet. After that meeting, they felt that they could really get in touch with each other, so they started dating. Gu Xing works in a pharmaceutical company. Not to mention her personality, her appearance is also very likable, which makes Chen Jun feel like he has more face, every time he takes her out. Of course, he actually truly loves her and hopes to marry her one day. Who would have thought such a thing would happen? A monster from the King's Moon carriage driver killed her. Chen Jun began to sob. Chen Shi turned a blind eye to his pain and calmly asked, "How is your girlfriend's interpersonal relationship? Do you have any common acquaintances?" Chen Jun pondered on this issue and began to list them as a small book for Chen Shi's notes on Lin Dong's studies. Lin Shui looked down at his notebook and noticed that his handwriting was neat, eye-catching, and neat, just like he had practiced calligraphy before. After taking down his name, Chen Shi glanced at the list and asked, "Is that all? Does she have any close friends?" "Yes, but I don't know them." "Why do you ask this?" "Of course, when the police investigate a case, everything needs to be explained in detail." "I'm thirsty, can I bother you to pour me a glass of water?" "Okay, give me some time." As soon as Chen Jun left, Chen Shi immediately began his dark search in this place. Lin Dongxue whispered, "Hey, what are you doing? This doesn't meet the standard protocol." "I'm not a police officer." Chen Shi found several boxes of medicine from the drawer and threw them on the table. Footsteps can be heard outside. Lin Dongxue asked, "Why can't you put everything back in place, Tang?" Chen Shi ignored her as if he were deaf. Chen Jun came in with a cup of tea, and Chen Shi apologized. "Sorry, I'm checking your drawer." Chen Jun is obviously unhappy, but he doesn't have a partner. These boxes of medicine, if I remember correctly, are used to treat gonorrhea. Are you hiding anything from us? Gong. Gonorrhea. Lin Dongxue looked at the child and didn't seem like a dark or dishonest person at all. This. Chen Jun bit his lip and stuttered for a second. I hope you don't hide anything from us. Don't worry, if you say something here, I won, and don't leak it to anyone outside. I'm infected with gonorrhea. Chen Jun confessed. How did it happen? There was an annual meeting. The company gave me a bonus, so a few colleagues dragged me to that place. When I came back, I felt itchy and painful below. Chen Jun rubbed his nose. You're not telling the truth, your expression and actions indicate that you're lying. I want you not to immediately hide things from me. Chen Jun's face turned red. What is this related to the murder case? Getting sick is my own business. It's obvious that Mengxing was killed by the driver that night. Why didn't you investigate him, but investigate me? It's okay. It depends on our judgment, not yours. I don't want to tell us the truth. I'll help you speak up. You love your girlfriend very much, so we subconsciously try to defend her. However, gonorrhea was transmitted to you from her, right? Chen scratched his head not easily. Chen Shi continued, there are several cups on your table and a photo of you together. Every time you mention her name, your eyes look different. This proves that you have a deep affection for her. Therefore, you don't want her reputation to be damaged. However, you know that her private life is very irregular, and she even spreads diseases to you. Enough. Chen Jun threw away the cup. I don't want you to talk about her like this. Lin Dongxue was frightened, but Chen Shi calmly lit a cigarette and smiled. Are you angry? It seems like I hit the nail on the head. Chen Jun opened the door and said, you're no longer popular here. Get out. Don't drag me into this, Tang. Lin Dongxue whispered angrily. Chen Shigang just made the key suspect angry on the spot. Her skin is incredibly thin, and she can ignore it and feel her face turn red. Chen Shi shook her head and said, a 25-year-old unmarried woman who has had close contact with many men proves that her interpersonal relationships are far more complex than you imagine. Her death is likely to be closely related to your health condition. If there is a direct relationship between the two and we are leaving now, next time you will see other people telling you, sorry, we cannot close the case yet. Please claim your girlfriend's body. If you wish for such an outcome, please say these words, I'm leaving. It's not a big deal for us because it only determines whether we receive bonuses. What losses does it have for us? But for you, Gu Mengxing will be in the afterlife. I will always hate you, and the culprit will also go unpunished. Perhaps in the near future, there will be a second and third Gu Mengxing. All of this will happen because you refuse to cooperate with the police, because of your meaningless face. Please, wake up. While Chen Shi was saying these words, Lin Dongxue said to him, stop talking, but he turned a blind eye to her efforts. Chen Jun was suffocated by the slap on his face. He clenched his fist and trembled all over. Suddenly, Chen closed the door again and sat on the chair closest to him. He grabbed his hair in pain and said, I said, no. I can talk. She did give me a green hat to wear once. Okay, more than once. How did you discover it? Chen Shi asked. Once, my colleague told me they saw her walking into a hotel with an old man. At first, I didn't believe it, but I also had some doubts. I was thinking about it all day and all night, so I couldn't fall asleep. When I thought about her once pure being pressed onto the bed by another man, I couldn't sit still, so I installed a locator behind her phone case, and I really caught her. Interestingly, this time it was with another person. When she came back, I naturally had an argument with her. I suggested we break up. However, in the face of her tears, I still had a soft heart. After the incident, she continued, unchanged. She continued to sleep with casual men. I don't know how many times we argued about this situation. In the end, she didn't even cry anymore, but tried to prove her behavior to me with wrong logic and reasoning. She repeatedly emphasized that even if her body was not honest, her heart would always belong to me. These words came from her mouth. However, I couldn't believe her, but I loved her too much and couldn't leave. Later. Chen-jun smiled and shook his head. She actually contracted this disgusting disease and passed it on to me. In some Asian countries, it essentially means pride and dignity. 2. The green hat is used to symbolize a man who is unfaithful to his girlfriend or wife. It is said that this expression originated from some stories. A story describes a hard-working husband whose wife feels bored during the endless hours of his work. Therefore, she began her affairs and gave her husband a green hat. When her husband leaves with the hat worn by his lover, the man who has an extramarital affair with her will be able to say that he has already left on this day. The first story is slightly different. For example, the green hat belongs to one of her lovers. One day, he accidentally put it on while rushing to work, which is important for everyone. Another story can be traced back to the Ming Dynasty, when Emperor Zhu promulgated a law requiring men engaged in prostitution to wear green scarves/hats. During the Yuan Dynasty, relatives of prostitutes were forced to wear green clothes. Chapter 9. Comfort. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Lin Dongxue heard and, without thinking, asked, "Why don't you and her just cough?" Chen Shi interrupted her sentence and asked Chen-jun, "How did you first get to know each other?" "A social networking mobile game called." "I didn't mean that. What I meant was, do you know what the other person looks like before you first meet?" Due to the cartoon characters being used as our avatars in the game, I am not unaware of their appearance. We have the same rest time and often play together. Later, she requested to meet in person. The first time, we didn't have a chance to meet because she suddenly had an urgent matter to attend to. A week later, we met at a coffee shop. We had a good feeling for each other and felt connected, so we started dating. Chen Shi pondered his chin repeatedly. "How do you arrange your usual rest time?" "The company is busy, so I take an hour off at noon every day. I don't have the habit of taking a nap, so I finish work at 9 p.m. My day off is Wednesday, and so is hers. Thank you for your cooperation." Chen Shi said a standard farewell before departure. When he came downstairs, Lin Shui scolded him, "You put your nose in someone else's privacy, but without, I can't even say 2 words of comfort." "Comfort him. You're a police officer, not a psychiatrist. Cold and ruthless. However, that guy has some dedication. He doesn't have. Even then, don't break up with her. Our country's laws in the United States have never restricted affairs. The level of acceptance of such things varies from person to person. If it happens once, some people cannot tolerate it. Even if there is a big yard above their heads, others will remain indifferent. If it were me, I can't accept it even once." Chen Shi suddenly stopped on his track and said, "Wait for me here. I forgot to ask a question." Chen Shi quickly traced back. While waiting downstairs, Su Xiaodong called and asked, "Where are you?" "That's none of your business." "Hee, I found some amazing clues on the suspect. According to the driver's friend, the suspect has been in this industry for too long. Maybe less than a year. Even his driver's license was only obtained a year ago. What did he do before becoming a driver? In 2015, he was in a prison in another city. After he was released, he didn't even peek. In fact, there was no record at all. There were even rumors that he had died. Then, he suddenly appeared for a long time, alone in 2018. Alone. No, didn't he say he had a mother at home? Did he say that? No, there is no one in his family anymore. He claimed that his relatives are in his hometown, but we checked and found that his so-called hometown does not have this person in their census. He seems to have come out of thin air. Upon hearing his voice coming downstairs, Lin Shui quickly hung up the phone and looked at Chen Shi. Lin Shui believes that what is the background of this guy? What's wrong? Chen Shi asked with a smile when he saw Lin Shui's strange expression. It's nothing, where are we going next? What do you think? Lin Dongxue thought for a moment and said, investigate Gu Mengxing's interpersonal relationships. For example, is she a beneficial friend? Chen Shi smiled and shook his head. Can we investigate? Let's go directly to her home and her company. After the two got into the car, Lin Shui looked at Chen Shi's side and thought, this guy used to be a gang leader with a huge rap record. However, during her brief time with him, she did not even find any traces of vulgar or meaningless aggression. On the contrary, there is a sense of justice around him. In addition, he is very skilled in solving cases. If he lacks experience, then it is impossible to achieve this solely through self-study. What has happened to him in the past 3 years that won't appear in his records? What caused him to completely change? The two went directly to the pharmaceutical company where Gu Xing worked. Gu Mengxing has just passed away, so her workstation has not been cleaned yet. There is a bouquet of red roses on top. Chen Shi summarized, it seems that this girl is very popular. It is currently around 5 p.m., therefore, most employees go out to eat and there is no one in the office. Chen Shi sat on Gu Mengxing and began to check her belongings. Lin Shui quickly reminded him, saying, hey, pay attention to your fingerprints. I'm already wearing gloves. Chen Shi raised one hand and took a pair of cleaning gloves from Gu Mengxing. He could see his company in his hand. He opened the drawer and found several boxes of medicine inside, all of which needed to be taken orally. Chen Shi declared, these drugs, just like the drugs Chen Jun saw, are also drugs for treating gonorrhea. Chen Shi looked at the table and said, the deceased's personality seems easy going. She is someone who easily trusts others and is eager to try new things, but she also has a bit of stubbornness in her heart. These people are usually good at defending their actions. How did you tell from around her desk? Chen Shi pointed out, a workstation is a person's display of characters, preferences, and personalities. When you look at Gu Mengxing's desk, items are clear at a glance, easy to place, and there are no obstacles. Her book has been reading and is casually placed on the table. The item used as a bookmark is actually a sanitary tampon packaging, which indicates that the girl is not stingy. Look at this memo. The handwriting looks like a flying dragon or a dancing phoenix, messy, indicating that she is a passionate and energetic person. However, the edges and completeness of the handwriting are relatively hard, which proves that she has some stubbornness in her heart. Lin Dongxue was shocked, and Chen Shi looked at her with a smile. I'm a driver, I usually see many people, so I read people very accurately. A young man came in carrying a lunchbox and saw the two of them sitting at the station where Gu Mengxing used to sit. He glared at them suspiciously and said, what are you doing? Who allowed you to enter this private area and mess around? Lin Dongxue presented her ID card, and the young man's attitude immediately softened. It turned out to be a police officer. Are you investigating the cause of her death? We're just investigating her interpersonal relationships, Chen Shi replied, noticing that the person had been looking at the flowers on the table and asking, did these flowers come from you? No, it's a colleague who bought it together. We took such a good girl away too early, and everyone was greatly affected. What is your relationship with her? That guy was very panicked, we're just ordinary colleagues. Oh, really? Chen Shi took the note from the flower and compared it to the young person's name in the lunchbox. The handwriting is the same. Logically, you gave this bouquet of red roses. Would an ordinary colleague send this? There's no one else here, let's talk. A man's cheeks turn red. We're in touch with each other. What? Lin Dongxue was shocked. I have been in contact with her for half a year now. To be honest, I have been secretly in love with her since I joined this company. She is so beautiful and gentle, she is the goddess in everyone's heart. I don't think I have any hope of being with her. Once we all go out to sing karaoke, I confessed to her the strength of the wine. I didn't think she would accept it, but she accepted it. That day, I died happily. Then, we started to connect more and more, but something was wrong with her. She never talked to me at work. We never went home together after work. We only occasionally went out to meet on Sundays, but I was very satisfied. After she passed away, I realized she has a boyfriend. I was greatly hurt, but I really love her. This bouquet of flowers is something I mourn for her loyal love. Chen Shi smiled. May I ask you a personal question? Have you been sick lately? No. Do you have any sexually transmitted diseases? The man was stunned and suddenly threw the lunch box aside, jumping up and saying, Bastard, what are you talking about? 1. The yard/lawn is usually green. He said that guy is wearing a big green hat. Refer to the long notes in the previous chapter. Chapter 10. Interests. You are listening at novelfull.audio. What? That guy was confused. A sexually transmitted disease. The boy, then. You were asking if she and I did. That type of stuff. Sexual activity. The boy's face became increasingly red, like a ripe tomato. Under Chen Shi's ruthless questioning, he stuttered and admitted, we had a room together. 1. After the company's monthly meeting, it was getting late, so I escorted her home. I jokingly asked her if she wanted to go to the hotel, but I didn't think she would really agree. This was my first time, so I was a bit confused and anxious. Is this even related to the case? Did you two use protection? I put on a condom during this period. Have you ever been infected with sexually transmitted diseases? No, I have always been very healthy. When did this event occur? 2 months ago. After saying these words, the person looked at Dong Xuelin with an awkward expression on their face. Chen Shi patted his shoulder and said, Thank you. This information is very beneficial for our investigation. Officer, can I leave now? Okay, one more thing. When did Gu Mengxing have a vacation? Wednesday. Always on Wednesdays. This guy thought for a while, asked them to wait for a while, and finally said, the company arranged for her to rest on Monday, but she switched with Xiao Zhang, so as of last year, she was off on Wednesday. Chen Shi looked at the roster and seemed lost in thought. Then he asked, okay, one last question. What kind of close friend is she? Oh, I don't know much about them. Thank you for your cooperation. After Chen Shi and Lin left the office, Dong Xuelin immediately asked, why do you want to inquire about her best friend? Do you suspect that the killer is someone around her? Chen Shi explained, from the perspective of a criminal psychologist, the motives of female murderers are usually very clear. It is related to personal interests, especially emotional interests. I am 90% certain that the woman in my car and Gu Mengxing know each other. Criminal psychology. Lin Dongxue stared at Chen Shi with an incredulous expression on her face. Oh, please, can the driver read books in his spare time? Don't question the skills and professionalism I have acquired the day after tomorrow, okay? I want to know why you are so professional. Lin Dongxue murmured to him. So, do you want to lock in this suspect? Let's first investigate the victim's interpersonal relationships. This will be handed over to you. Chen Shi was interrupted by his phone ringtone. It's one of his driver friends. His friend expressed his concern over the phone. Lao Chen, did you do something wrong? Just now, a police officer came to me and asked what you were doing 3 days ago. After communicating back and forth a few times, Chen Shi hung up the phone, shook his head, and smiled, your brother is really a genius. The entire task force has been taken into the ditch. They are still inspecting Wang's moon carriage corner. Why is he so obsessed? How could there be such a stubborn person? Lin Dongxue stomped her feet and said, "Don't speak ill of my brother behind his back, Tang. I just stated the reality of the situation as directly as possible. Yes, if you want to use this case to make a contribution, you shouldn't rely on the task force to investigate the deceased's interpersonal relationships. It's not an honor. The purpose of investigating a case is to bring peace to the victims. Your moral compass is not." "Yes," Lin Dongxue snorted. Okay. Then call your brother and tell him, "Oh, by the way, the number one suspect and I are investigating this case together." Lin's response made Dongxue dumbfounded, while Chen Shi just lit a cigarette. He instructed, "Our upcoming investigation will bring significant gains. You should decide whether to make a contribution and receive honor. When you find someone who meets the characteristics of our suspect, remember to contact me. Match the characteristics." "What characteristics? Do you remember how many times she met?" Chen Shi touched her chin and recalled. She was a woman of about 25 years old, with a decent appearance and a height of about 175 centimeters. She was highly likely to work in the medical field. She could be a doctor, introverted and meticulous in personality. How do you know she's a doctor? What was the deceased while he was alive? Medical representative. She has a high likelihood of knowing a doctor. If that's the case, didn't these two people get to know each other through business? Chen Shi shook his head and said, "Not necessarily. Medical ambassadors usually only have business relationships with hospital officials. In addition, if you want to check patient information, you must request a search warrant. It's difficult to apply in time. Consuming. The two people in question are of similar ages, so I think it's very likely that they are classmates. You should look for her group of classmates, especially her college classmates, in Mengxingu. Although these are the basic steps used in typical investigations, their mouths sound very clear and logical when they come out of Chen Shi." Lin Dongxue nodded and took note of the instructions. "I will leave first because I haven't started working today yet. If I don't make a few rounds of orders tonight, I will drink the wind from the west. If there is anything, give me a call." Chen Shi went straight to the front door of the company. After the breakup, Chen Shi did not mark the client. On the contrary, he went to the crime scene. 3 days later, the police had removed the videotape they had used to block the area. Chen Shi put his hand in his pocket and slowly strolled on the dark rocky beach. The sound of the tide rang in his ear. His eyes were searching for clues on the ground. However, after several days of wind and sun exposure, there was basically nothing to see. After walking a few laps, Chen Shi chuckled and murmured to himself, "This has become the past. Why has your heart died for it? Is this your fate?" He looked up and suddenly saw an old lady picking up garbage, walking along the road, carrying a snake-skin bag filled with soda cans and bottles. She was wearing a slim-fitting burgundy women's long windbreaker, which didn't look at all suitable for the lady wearing it. Chen Shi noticed a detail at a glance. The long windbreaker is double-breasted, and there are 2 buttons on the jacket that are side by side, but one of them is missing. He suddenly got some inspiration and murmured softly to himself, "Is the deceased holding an item?" Then, Chen Shi hurriedly strode forward and politely asked, "Auntie, where are your clothes?" Auntie looked at Chen Shi with a little fear and refused to answer. When Chen Shi continued to politely ask a few more times, she finally opened her mouth and said in a hesitant tone, "I took it out of the trash can late at night." "What do you want?" Chen Shi smiled and said, "Don't misunderstand, I really like this style. Can you give me that windbreaker?" Auntie panicked and grabbed her chest, asking, "Do you want to take it from me?" Chen Shi took out his wallet and counted out 300 yuan. "No, don't take it. I want to buy it." Auntie is still on high alert and very cautious. Chen Shi lied and told her that he wanted to buy it for his girlfriend. She still doubts, but agrees to sell it. Chen Shi was extra careful and took out a plastic bag from the car to put the clothes inside. He is very careful not to leave fingerprints on it. After Auntie left, Chen Shi looked at the clothes in his hand and shouted happily, unexpected reward. 1. Opening a room means renting a hotel for sex. When you eat the wind, it means you haven't eaten anything. This is usually used to describe not having money or having waited for a long time. The former is suitable for this situation because he has already started working today. 3. Some people, usually poor, elderly, or homeless, pick up garbage such as cardboard and cans for sale in order to make a living. They also pick up what they need so they don't have to buy it. 300 yuan, RMB, is approximately $42 US.